What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we're chatting with Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans. The Pelicans have their biggest win of the season against the LA Lakers, rallying from down 20 at halftime against LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and the rest of the Lakers squad in a game with huge playoff implications and storylines galore between these two franchises. But first, a quick message for my friends over at Built Bar, because when it comes to protein bars, you've got to check out Built Bar. They are the #1 protein bar on the market. Every single bar is low cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, amazing if you're on a keto diet, amazing if you're trying to cut back, lose a little bit of weight. And the best part, every single one of these bars, they're coated in 100% delicious chocolate. They're not gritty or chalky like other protein bars on the market. And they're also the flavors. They've got so many great flavors to choose from. Salted caramel, raspberry, strawberry, mint brownie, peanut butter. My personal favorite, coconut brownie chunk, cookies and cream. You really can't go wrong with a single flavor on their menu. And you can check them out. Just go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your very next order of the best tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Joining us now is Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans and Locked On NBA, you can follow on Twitter at NOLA Jake. Jake, what a win for the New Orleans Pelicans. The biggest win of the season. I mean, right? No argument from you there, right? That has to be the biggest win of the season for the implications in the standings in the Western Conference against the LA Lakers, the tiebreaker over LA now, the sole possession of the 9th seed, all of the above, and not even that, also the implications regarding the pick that is owed to the New Orleans Pelicans by way of LA, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you didn't mention, right, like you can't overstate how important this game was for both the Lakers and the Pelicans, but there's probably a little bit more at stake for New Orleans. And look, they got off to a rough start. You know, again, you said you could get the 9th seed here. You get the tiebreaker over the Lakers. And then if the Lakers and their pick falls into the top 10, the Pelicans get it. So there exists like a very real, very strong best case scenario for New Orleans. And they start terribly, down 23 at halftime. I think they were down like 12-0 to start the game, and then just kept coming back and whittling down the Los Angeles Lakers till they were able to kind of get that win. And you saw the Lakers kind of regress to the mean a little bit in this game. LeBron came out shooting really, really hot, and then he kind of cooled off. They started to really stagnate and play some really bad isolation offense. New Orleans just kept chipping away, and by the time they took that lead, it didn't seem like they were going to relinquish that. So now they're in 9th. The Lakers are in 10th and only a game above the San Antonio Spurs, so they have them breathing down there next too. And then it looks like right now, with the home play-in tournament game that New Orleans gets, they'd play the Lakers. If you win that one, you knock them out. They go to the lottery, and if ping pong balls bounce your way, all of a sudden you're also potentially looking at another top 4 pick headed to New Orleans.
So many different implications from this game. And again, there was so much weight kind of riding on this one. And to come back to rally from down 20 at the halftime and just do it, like you said, by just kind of chipping away as the game went along. But the two guys that I feel like we have to shine a spotlight here on, the rookies for New Orleans, Trey Murphy, all 21 of his points in the second half, 16 in the third quarter. He's a guy who was absolutely on fire. And then also Herb Jones, who had a very solid 16 points and then a career high 6 steals, playing some really impressive defense in this game.
Yeah, it was Trey Murphy who was the spark and the hero for New Orleans. Again, they were down 20 at halftime, right? And they still weren't able to really get a foothold in this game till he grabs an offensive rebound, goes up for the putback dunk, throws it down, and got a very weak technical called against him from taunting for simply looking, and I forget which player it was, might have been Malik Monk that he dunked over. They just called a technical on him after 2 seconds for no real reason, and that just woke the team up. It kind of gave them a little bit of an FU attitude and kind of galvanized them. And you started to see them step up their level of defense. And that's then added with Herb Jones, who's been good at this all year long, the 35th overall pick in the draft. He's been a bit of a revelation, I think, all year. I don't know if he'll end up on an all defensive team, but he's going to get some consideration for it. LeBron, who had scored 25 points in the first half, was unable to get almost any separation from Herb Jones. Herb was on one possession in the third quarter, basically attached to him. LeBron kept calling for screens, trying to force a switch to get Herb Jones off of him. And Herb is just fighting through these, both on his left side and his right side. And it ended up being a turnover for the Lakers, which led to a fast break point for New Orleans. That type of energy and those rookies stepping up and head coach Willie Green trusting those guys in the biggest moment in the biggest game of the season really kind of says a lot about what they've built here in New Orleans. The record might not show it. They're still under 500 by a good bit, but it seems there's at least a solid foundation built, and those two rookies are going to be a big part of that going forward.
Yeah, speaking of the defense, specifically on LeBron James, LeBron did have a monster 39-point evening, but like you said, he just kind of cooled off as the game went along. And credit where credit's due, New Orleans defense did a good job on him, and specifically in that fourth quarter, he was just 2 of 8. He finished with his 39 points somewhere near the top of the fourth quarter, went scoreless the rest of the game, just completely. I don't even know if you can call it regressing to the mean at that point, just struggling really to close out this game. But another one from this game, Brandon Ingram's return to the lineup in this one. Ingram walking away with a team high 26 points, 10 of 17 shooting. How impressed were you in his return to the lineup?
He's the type of guy that doesn't do well unless he's 100%. And I think he tried to rush back from this hamstring, which you don't want to retweak, right? And then lose him for the final 8 games or so, because he understood how big of a moment this was. And coming out of the gate, he looked a little bit off. But as the game kind of went on, and in the second half, I think he had 16 points in the second half, he really started to get to his spots and realized no one on the Lakers was going to be able to defend him. And he loves that mid-range shot. So he realized he could get there every single time. So while Trey Murphy really stepped up some of the scoring, Valanciunas did really well in the second half, you had Brandon Ingram basically be the killer for this team, go out, hit those mid-range jumpers that the Lakers had no answer for. So anytime LA was trying to kind of get back in this one, they got the ball to Brandon Ingram and he closed this one out. Coming off of that injury where he hasn't played in 8 games or so, a really good night for him and bodes well for New Orleans down the stretch.
And then not only do we have this really impressive win to talk about from the New Orleans side of things, but Jose Alvarado, who I think is one of the best stories in the NBA, getting a 4-year deal not long after this game was concluded. Just how exciting how is that? And also, can you shed a little bit of light on what I think is one of the greatest nicknames in the NBA is Grand Theft Alvarado?
That's a new one too. That's only come up in the past game or two, but I love it. It flows really well, right? And he's been enjoying that too. He got the Lou Dort special, more or less, right? It's an undrafted guy who was coming in and well outplaying the expectations for him. So you've got to try and lock him in long term. And when you look at it with him and Herb Jones, it's 2 guys that they're not even going to be paying $4 million the next 2 seasons combined each year. That's huge, I think, for the Pelicans. He's a good backup point guard. He's got limitations. He's undersized, but he's a pest on defense. I think a lot of people finally keyed in on where he kind of hides in the corner and on an inbound runs and tries to get the ball. And if he doesn't get the steal, he might spook you. It made Alex Caruso of the Bulls travel the other day. It's pretty fun to watch. Just a great story. A 4-year starter over at Georgia Tech, a guy that really had no expectations and probably shouldn't succeed in the league to a certain degree, getting a bit of a bag. His teammates are so happy for him. All of those guys after this win were out on the court dancing, celebrating. There's a lot of team chemistry here. There's like genuine, just good vibes emanating from the Pelicans locker room right now. Great to see a guy like that get paid. He's a fan favorite. I think he's going to be a league favorite soon enough. And Grand Theft Alvarado is such a good name given what he does.
And I think this is exactly kind of the way that you would want to see this New Orleans team progress, given the situation and everything that's gone on this season with Zion Williamson, to show him, hey, this is a team that look at what we're doing without you. Now imagine rolling him back into this lineup and just think about the success that this team could be, could be poised for next season, right?
Yeah, you nailed it. The biggest thing of getting him back from Portland was not that he's potentially going to play this year. And I think that's still 98%, 99% that's not going to happen. But it was just getting him around this team. Look, there's definitely some iciness between him and his camp and this franchise. But you see how much fun these players are having. You've seen some of the highlights from them. And look at Zion's reaction on the sideline. He is blown away by all of this. He's getting into the moment and getting up and dancing with these guys, being excited. So if there's ever a way to kind of melt some of that iciness, it's how much fun this group is having together. The most important thing, I think, for New Orleans long-term was, win some games, try and get into the play-in tournament. But if you can change Zion's mind a little bit about how he feels, that's going to go a long way towards building that bright future they hope to have here.
Now, Jake, I know there's no love lost between New Orleans Pelicans fans and Anthony Davis. So in two potential scenarios here, either A, the Pelicans possibly eliminating the Lakers in the play-in tournament, or B, the Lakers just not making the play-in whatsoever. Which one would you, take a little bit more joy out of?
Oh boy, yeah, that's a tough one, right? The lottery odds would be a little bit better if they don't make the play-in whatsoever, so it improves the chances of the Lakers getting a top 10 or getting a top 10 pick, which would then go to New Orleans. But the fans would absolutely give up that extra 2%, probably whatever it is, to try and beat Anthony Davis and probably just scream at him the entirety of that game. That's all, folks. Joel Myers, the Pelicans play-by-play guy, got a shot in on that on the broadcast tonight, too. There's no love lost there whatsoever. I think Pelicans fans would rather eliminate the Lakers and send them home.
Will the Pelicans be the team to eliminate LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the LA Lakers? Stay tuned. All of that, it's coming up. I mean, playoffs are right around the corner, and you're going to have us covered for all of that and more Pelicans news and info over at Locked On Pelicans. Jake, appreciate you always stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Of course, thanks for having me on, Jackson.